Have you ever wondered how the ongoing conflict between Ukraine and Russia began? It's a tale that stretches back decades. In the early 20th century, Ukraine was under the iron grip of the Soviet Union, a power which Russia was the heart of. This control was absolute, and Ukraine's identity as a nation was suppressed under the hammer and sickle. Then came the fall of the Soviet Union in the early 90s, an event that shook the world and led to Ukraine finally proclaiming its independence. But Russia, having been the center of the Soviet Union, struggled with this sudden loss of control. It sought to maintain its influence over the region, viewing Ukraine as a vital part of its sphere of influence. This tension between a newly independent Ukraine striving for its own path, and a Russia unwilling to let go of its past control, set the stage for escalating conflict. As Ukraine began to look west for alliances, Russia's grip began to tighten, sparking a power struggle that would evolve into the full-blown conflict we see today. Thus, the seeds of conflict were planted, setting the stage for the struggles we see today. The year 2014 marked a significant escalation in Ukraine and Russia's strained relationship. A political storm was brewing in Ukraine that year, one that would forever change the course of its history. It was a year of political unrest and upheaval, with Ukraine's government making a pivotal shift towards the west, causing a political crisis that sent shockwaves through the region. This shift didn't sit well with Russia. In response to Ukraine's move towards the west, Russia took drastic steps that would have lasting consequences: the annexation of Crimea. This bold move was a clear violation of Ukraine's sovereignty, drawing sharp criticism from the international community. But Russia didn't stop there. It went on to initiate military intervention in eastern Ukraine, a region with significant Russian-speaking population. This aggressive action by Russia was met with international condemnation. Countries around the world voiced their disapproval, and the United Nations declared the annexation of Crimea as illegal. But words weren't the only form of protest. Economic sanctions were imposed on Russia by nations around the world, including the United States and members of the European Union. These sanctions targeted Russia's financial, energy, and defense sectors, hitting its economy hard. But despite the economic blowback, Russia remained defiant. The annexation of Crimea and the military intervention in eastern Ukraine marked a new chapter in Ukraine and Russia's relationship, one characterized by open conflict and aggression. This was far from the end of the story, though. The 2014 crisis was just the beginning of a complex and ongoing conflict that continues to shape the region's political landscape. The 2014 crisis was a turning point, transforming a tense relationship into an open conflict. Despite international condemnation and sanctions, the conflict between Ukraine and Russia has continued to this day. In the heart of Eastern Europe, the tumultuous struggle between Ukraine and Russia rages on. The eastern reaches of Ukraine have become a battlefield, a ground zero for the unwavering Russian military presence. Despite numerous peace talks and ceasefire agreements, the echoes of gunfire and the rumble of tanks remain a constant in this region. Each attempt at peace seems to disintegrate almost as quickly as it forms, like a sandcastle against the relentless tide. Both sides are steadfast, their resolve hardened by the stakes at hand, a matter of territorial integrity for Ukraine and a matter of geopolitical influence for Russia. The impact on the civilian population is profound. Lives have been uprooted, families torn apart, and homes reduced to rubble. The human cost of this conflict is a grim reminder of the harsh realities of war. Yet, in the face of such adversity, the spirit of the Ukrainian people remains unbroken. In the midst of this chaos, the international community has not stood idle. Efforts to mediate the conflict have been relentless, with world leaders and international organizations stepping in to negotiate a peaceful resolution. Economic sanctions have been imposed on Russia, an attempt to pressure the Russian government into withdrawing their forces. Yet the Russian bear has shown little signs of backing down. At the same time, the conflict has sparked a wave of support for Ukraine. Aid has poured in from across the globe, from food and medical supplies to military equipment. This international solidarity has been instrumental in Ukraine's resilience in the face of such a formidable adversary. Despite the odds, Ukraine continues to resist, a testament to the determination of its people. So, what does the future hold for relations between Ukraine and Russia? As we venture into the realm of future possibilities, we see three potential scenarios. The first is continued conflict, a tense stalemate where neither side can claim definitive victory. This situation could persist for years, further destabilizing the region and causing untold human suffering. The second scenario is successful peace talks. This would require compromise from both sides and the involvement of international actors. The world has seen the destabilizing effect of this conflict, and there's a shared interest in facilitating a peaceful resolution. The third scenario involves further escalation. This could mean an even larger-scale conflict, potentially drawing in other nations and impacting global politics. Such an escalation could have far-reaching consequences not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for the world at large. What's certain is the critical role of international actors. The United States, Europe, and other global powers have a vested interest in the resolution of this conflict. Their decisions could tip the scales towards peace or push the region further into chaos. Only time will tell what the future holds for Ukraine and Russia, but one thing is clear: the world is watching. In the span of just a few minutes, we've journeyed through decades of history between Ukraine and Russia. We've traced the roots of the conflict back to the deep-seated historical tensions and explored the pivotal 2014 crisis that set the stage for the ongoing strife. We've shed light on the continuous conflict, a turbulent saga of power struggles, territorial disputes, and political maneuvering. We also ventured into potential future scenarios, understanding that the landscape is volatile and ever-changing. We've seen how decisions made today are not only shaped by the ghosts of the past, but also how they echo into the future, shaping the destiny of nations and their people. This journey, while brief, has given us a glimpse into the intricacies of the Ukraine-Russia relationship. It's a narrative that's still being written, one that the world watches with bated breath. It's a story of resilience, survival, and hope amid adversity. While the situation remains complex and uncertain, understanding the history is the first step towards finding a resolution. Thanks for joining us on this historical journey.